Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, hybrid working is here to stay, I think, and we now have the freedom and flexibility to work from anywhere and on any device. But what does that mean for a business? And as an ex-IT guy, and when I say ex-IT guy, I think once you've worked in IT, you are always an IT guy. And for those reasons alone, I find myself thinking about mobile phones, tablets, laptops, etc. How do you manage them all? And if you're working in a global enterprise, where do you begin to manage the replacement of 10,000 units? And what about the e-waste that you're creating as a result? And how are you managing all that in a responsible way? Well, companies are facing a multitude of challenges these days, especially when it comes to mobile device management and maintaining employee satisfaction and productivity. It's such a fine balance. So today I've invited Tillmann Schwabe, General Manager of Everphone US, and he's going to talk to me about tackling these challenges, what's coming next, the solution, and also we're going to discuss the circular economy and how Device-as-a-Service could be a more sustainable solution for enterprises, and we'll also talk about how to reduce each device's CO2 footprint. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Miami, where Tillmann Schwabe is waiting to speak with us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, Neil. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tillmann Schwabe. I'm the General Manager for Everphone in the US. Everphone is a Device-as-a-Service company, and our mission is to bring the service to more and more customers here in the US. As to my background, I grew up in Germany. I had a very happy childhood. I had a supportive family, entrepreneurial upbringing, and I spent a lot of time playing sports in my youth. And I was fortunate enough to help several tech companies grow in the US since 2009. And now, in 2021, December 2021, we brought Everphone to the US, and it's the same mission, growing Everphone here in the US, expanding the customer base and bringing our services to the customers.
A great story. And of course, we're talking to you today in Miami, Florida, where it's something like 92 degrees Fahrenheit. But as you said, you grew up in Germany. And I'm curious, you did have that entrepreneurial background, but can you remember where your passion came from for tech or the moment that would put you on the path towards Everphone? Can you remember that moment and where that spark came from?
Yes, so I would say, technology has been a big part of all of our lives, right?
Yeah.
But I think when email got introduced, email has been around for decades, right? But it really was introduced to the public, I think, in the mid-90s, somewhere around that. And I was actually, at that time, I was in the US, and we used email to communicate, and that was a new thing. And I think that really sparked my interest into other technological advancements as well. And then, of course, during my business studies, when I learned the larger impact of technology on the economy and advancement of the economy, I really got an understanding for that life can be made better by just advancing the ideas and innovating technology and growing economies and bringing wealth to the world, if you think about it. And I think ever since then, I was very passionate about technology, and in my career, I've been in technology ever since.
Yeah, I remember those days well, from the US robotics modem, the sound of that connection to an AOL account saying you have email, the happy days. And of course, it would be that path that would lead you to Everphone. So can you tell me more about the company and the problems you set out to solve with your technology?
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, Everphone is a Device-as-a-Service company, and we manage mobile devices for corporate customers. And what really drew me to Everphone was the fact that, of course, we're trying to make money, but we also have a good cause. We want to contribute to the circular economy. As you know, with e-waste today, that's a big issue, and many people and organizations are looking into this and trying to figure out ways to limit that and the impact on the environment. And I really like the fact that Everphone has a solution for companies to make their device lifecycle management easier, right? Save them costs and contribute to the ecological cause.
And companies of all sizes at the moment are facing a multitude of challenges, especially when it comes to mobile device management and also maintaining employee satisfaction and productivity from those devices that they now rely on to be able to work from anywhere and at any time. So can you expand on some of the most common challenges that you might be seeing businesses grappling with and when you're having those conversations with them? Are there any trends there?
Yes. So when we talk with prospective customers, what we're seeing is that many times their IT departments handle lifecycle management for devices on the side, and that's never a good idea, right? I mean, they're overwhelmed with it. The different processes that make up the lifecycle management of devices are you need to have a very focused approach to each step of the process. And when you're just doing it on the side, you just don't have the expertise to handle all of this. It starts with procurement, for example. Whenever devices need to be replaced, or whenever there's upgrades happening, the IT department and procurement they might have a partner or two that's able to deploy devices to them, but they certainly don't have the connections in the market to really source on a larger scale. And that leads to long wait times for devices to arrive. And obviously that has an impact on productivity and employee happiness and company success as a whole. So I would say that's the at the start of the device management cycle, what we're seeing that companies are struggling with. Then the whole logistics piece. IT departments aren't equipped to handle logistics for hundreds or thousands of devices. So that's always a big project. They don't necessarily have the asset management expertise and the logistical expertise to do that on such a large scale and to do that with low error rates, right? So it happens that devices are sent to the wrong employee. It happens that employees have to wait long for the devices to arrive, and it just leads to the IT departments not being able to carry out their core functions, right? So that's what we're seeing when we're talking about staging devices. Mobile device management is actually something that larger corporations do well. Still, they appreciate our help in this regard. And smaller companies are thinking about mobile device management but haven't deployed it yet. So that's certainly something that we help them with to get on that mobile device management software and really add a security piece to their device management. And then at the end of the life cycle, what we're seeing, the whole a collection of devices and data deletion and refurbishment. That's something that corporate customers are struggling with. It's very common that we're seeing that they're having device rooms where they just stack devices and they sit there for years and it just adds up and adds up, or they just shred the devices. And of course, that's not good for the circular economy. I would say those are the most common issues we're seeing in the marketplace.
And I'm glad you brought that up there, because one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was hearing about your belief that the circular economy and device as a service are the most sustainable solution for enterprises, almost like the perfect partnership. But can you expand on that?
So if a company chooses to contribute to the circular economy, right, and identifies that their device management currently doesn't really live up to that promise, I think DeviceasaService is a perfect solution if it indeed covers the whole cycle, from the procurement of the devices to the refurbishment of the devices, right? So that's very important. Of course, I can't speak to all providers out there, but certainly I've seen device as a service providers that cover only parts of that whole process. Now, Everphone is a one-stop shop for our customers. So we cover the process from A to Z. And I think that is important if you're really wanting to contribute to the circular economy, making sure that your device usage is limiting the carbon dioxide emissions, then making sure that really devices get refurbished at the end of the life cycle and the life cycle is actually extended. That's very important for customers to consider.
And a few moments ago, you mentioned quite a few challenges there that businesses are going through and the trends and the conversations you're having with them. So where does Everphone fit in this? How are you helping businesses overcome those challenges you mentioned?
So I'll give you a very simple example.
Yeah.
If the screen of a laptop breaks today, the employee communicates directly with us, goes into our portal, clicks on a button for the device replacement, and we send out a new device. We collect the broken device, repair it, refurbish it, and then the device gets a second life, and thereby we're extending its lifespan. And that's really how the model works, because we make sure that devices that are still in good shape, we make sure that they get a second life. That's how we reduce the overall effect on carbon dioxide emissions.
And I think more and more businesses are taking this seriously now, especially with ESG scores examples. So how is Everphone's service reducing CO2 footprints? Because I think that and also, is that a big driver for businesses now? It
is, yes. We're seeing that more and more, like you described, the ESG goals the companies are having. They report on that publicly, right? So they're really looking to reduce the carbon dioxide footprint there, and they're starting initiatives to contribute to that. And obviously, the use of a professional device as a service company, including the refurbishment of devices, can play a big role in this here. And the way carbon dioxide is reduced is by extending devices' life cycles. So, like I told you earlier, what we see a lot in the market is that companies have special rooms, device rooms, and they just stack old devices in there because the IT department is overwhelmed. It's just a side business for them, so to speak, or a task that they do on the side, right? So they're not really equipped for handling the whole device life cycle, and particularly the later stages of the device cycle. So by giving the device a second life and really doubling their lifespan, that's how you can mathematically reduce the emissions of a device. Because imagine if you wouldn't do that, then someone else in the usage chain would buy a new device, and the production costs or the production emissions of a new device are around 58 kilograms, which is around 128 pounds. And so that would be emitted into the atmosphere. And with our approach, by refurbishing those devices, we're actually making sure that not, a new device isn't necessarily bought, but a refurbished device is used. So that's how the math works.
It's so important at the moment, and especially moving away from the throwaway society that we've seen for so many years now. So making a difference in that area is incredibly refreshing to hear. And I'm conscious there are a lot of businesses out there doing this, and people will have existing partnerships and relationships, etc. So can you share any of the use cases of how you've maybe helped a client equip their workforce with things like smartphones, tablets, but in a more flexible, safe and cost-efficient manner that helps just help everyone listening help them understand how you're different from the competitors out there?
Yes. So in terms of use cases, I think I have some examples there. For a large car manufacturer, we deployed tens of thousands of devices in a month. And that is something that internal departments aren't equipped to do, since it's not their core function, right? So this car manufacturer needed a large number of devices in a very short amount of time. And since one of our core capabilities is scalability, right? Delivering devices in a very short amount of time, staging them in a short amount of time, and making sure that there's a minimal error rate, so devices are ready to go once the employee unpacks them. That is really something we bring to the table, and what really helped this car manufacturer in the recent past. Another example would be a large accounting firm that just had issues dealing with the whole management cycle of device management. Their IT department was just overwhelmed with other tasks, and that was kind of a side business for them. And so the wait times for devices became longer and longer. They didn't really know where devices were, so the asset management piece wasn't handled too well, I guess. And so they asked us for help, and we were able to professionalize all of this and streamline all of this. And now, whenever there's an issue with devices, they're getting help ASAP, since we provide the help desk for them as well. And they have one face to talk to whenever there are issues around devices, from the start to the end of the life cycle. And yeah, that made a big difference for their productivity. And in terms of what makes us different from the competition, I would say that we provide all those process steps from one single source, right? Everphone does it all from A to Z. And that helps because the customer doesn't have to speak with several service providers there. So there's no finger pointing. Obviously, it's all within Everphone, one company, one face to the customer. And that adds a lot of reliability to the picture. In addition to that, scalability, the customer can count on us whenever there are recruiting spikes, for example, or whenever there's a device refresh that needs to happen in a very short amount of time. Scalability is really one of our core competencies. We have proven that we can scale this up to tens of thousands of devices within a very short time frame. And then I would say the cost really is a factor because we're a true device as a service provider. That means that we charge a small monthly subscription to our customers, and everything is included: the whole service piece, the device, and free replacements. So we see in the market that there are competitors that charge whenever there is a device that breaks, or when devices come back and there's a device refresh. Then there's grading involved, where the service provider says, "Oh well, we were actually thinking the device would come back in good condition. It was in poor condition, so you have to pay something on top." With Everphone, it's a monthly subscription. There's no overage charges or anything like that. So it's a very dependable solution on the cost part.
And I know from my IT past, that is a huge problem in itself right there, because the amount of people, often the same people, of course, bringing back laptops with broken screens. And I think the charge is, I mean, this was going back 6-7 years ago. The charge was £300 to replace a screen. And then you've got the screen on the smartphones, and we've got somebody that keeps dropping it. It's £200 a pop. And those prices soon add up. And what you're talking about here is tens of thousands of devices. So it's not just the cost and expense of fixing or introducing those devices. It's the e-waste that comes with it. So it's huge costs involved and responsibilities around that, isn't there?
That's exactly right. Yes. So it's a cost question, right? But also ecological question, right? And those are two things that Everphone contributes to and helps companies deal with.
And as for yourselves at Everphone, where do you go from here? What's next for you? Because it does feel like you're in the right place at the right time, and there's a huge focus on how we manage these tens of thousands of devices and the life cycle of them. But what's your big focus for the future?
Yeah, so there's a big demand for device as a service. Companies are realizing that this is the way to go. And we're here in the US to obviously provide the best service to our customers and convey the message that we can help with this. And we want to help as many customers as possible and contribute to the reduction of e-waste and be a good partner in that regard, and also lead Everphone to new growth. So that's our focus right now.
Well, we started the podcast talking about your origin story, growing up in Germany and how it's took you to Miami and Florida. But I'm now going to ask you to leave everyone listening with a book or a song that has inspired you throughout your life. And we can add a song to our Spotify playlist, a book to our Amazon wish list. But what are you going to leave us with and why?
Yeah, so that's actually one of my favorite songs. It's a European composer, The Moldau by Smetana. Which is about a river of the same name in the Czech Republic. And apart from the melody, which is just beautiful, it also inspires me because I think it resembles life. So it alternates between faster sections and then slower sections. And I think that's also a symbol for life, right? I mean, we're going through cycles. And the song, when I listen to the song, it really reminds me of what life is about, and also to focus on the important things in life.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add that to our Spotify playlist. I'm a little bit relieved because we were talking about the mid-90s, the beginning of the internet and Germany, and you're going to America. I must admit there was a side of me that thought you were going to say Freedom, David Hasselhoff, but I'm glad you didn't. That was a big song back then, wasn't it?
It is. And David Hasselhoff is a great actor and a great singer. It's just, I prefer the Moldau by Smetana.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening that would like to find out more about Everphone, the work you're doing, anything we discussed today, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yes, so our website is everphone.com. Please check it out and reach out to us. Reach out to us through our LinkedIn account. And we're more than happy to answer all of your questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, talking about the circular economy, how Device-as-a-Service is the most sustainable solution for enterprises, and explaining your model, and also for sharing your very personal story with us today. So thanks so much for joining me.
Neil, thank you so much for having me.
I think for the most part, people in the workplace have used a laptop or a smartphone. You've probably smashed your screen or maybe even damaged your laptop. How is you and your business managing mobile devices? Are you exploring a more sustainable way of managing 10,000 plus devices? How are you securing them? You've heard from me today, you've heard from today's guest, but I want to hear your stories and your insights, so please share them with me. You can do that by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. So keep those messages coming in. I'll be back tomorrow with another guest, but thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.